John, thank you so much for having me back. It's great to talk to you today.
Well, first of all, I did not know your life story, and the story you told about your father I thought was very compelling. Tell me a little bit more about it.
You know, people always ask me why I'm a conservative, and it really came from my parents. My dad's one of 9 kids, only one that got past the 5th grade, grew up in a house without running water, electricity, came to this country with my mom so she could go to LSU. He didn't have a job, so he picked up the Yellow Pages, started calling companies until he got a job. And they did such a great job raising my brother and me, teaching us to be so grateful that we live in the greatest country in the world. I was born here, so this is, I was born in America. This is what I know. It's so easy to take for granted the opportunities, the freedoms that we have. But what's great, my dad gave me an immigrant's love and passion for those freedoms and taught us to never take it for granted. And, probably the greatest gift he gave to us, to my brother and me, he always told us, I'm not giving you a famous last name or an inheritance, but I'm going to make sure you get a great education, and I'm going to make sure you're grateful for the opportunities you have as Americans every single day. Every day you wake up, you should be grateful that you're born in the greatest country in the world.
Well, and I thought you outlined this perfectly last night, and I did not know you cut taxes 6 times. You eliminated 250 earmarks from your state budget, and all of that has happened. What has been the result of that?
250 earmarks, just to put that in perspective, that's twice what the last 2 governors did combined in their 12 years in office. So that was an entire change, a new way of doing business in Baton Rouge. We did cut 6 taxes, the largest income tax cut in our state's history. The result is we outperformed the national economy last year. We gained jobs. For the last 12 months, we outperformed the southeastern economy. We were the only state last month that gained jobs in the country. We've continued to outperform the national economy, whether it's foreclosures or unemployment rates, or whether you look at home values. Our economy, we're not immune from the national economic challenges, but we are doing better. We used to be one of only 3 states that charged a tax on new equipment. That makes no sense. I mean, Sean, you know this. If companies, if it costs them more to invest in your state, they're going to go to other states. I mean, they're not going to come and invest in your state. In today's world, you've got to be competitive.
I got to tell you something. First of all, I was very glad and appreciative of the optimism, although I think the president last night tried to strike a different tone than what he had been using prior to last night, which was, I was calling him President Doom, Gloom, and Malaise, because everything is a crisis, a catastrophe, fear-mongering, and obviously I think they realized that this was having a negative impact on markets worldwide, and more specifically our stock market. But you said many times, we believe Americans can do anything, and if we unleash the innovative spirit of our citizens, we can achieve a lot of these things. I didn't hear any pessimism, doom and gloom in your speech at all last night.
Well, Sean, you're exactly right. For the last month, if you listen to our president, at one point he even said that, we may not be able to reverse this. I quoted that last night. And the reality is, our country, our people can do anything. Where we and the president just have a fundamental disagreement is that we don't think we're going to solve our challenges. I know we'll solve our challenges, but I don't think we do it by empowering government. What gives me faith in America is not the folks in Washington, D.C., it's the American people. And we believe if we'll get out of their way, we'll cut taxes, get rid of some of these unnecessary regulations, we really allow these small businesses to prosper and to grow. We have no doubt our economy will grow again. We've overcome challenges like the 2 world wars, the Great Depression, September 11th. We've overcome a lot in our country's history. And I agree with you. For a month, if you kept hearing the rhetoric all over and over, all you heard was how awful things were. And that's not who we are as a people. We're resilient. We're a generous people. I shared last night, you certainly see it in my home state, we've been through 4 storms in 3 years, including Hurricane Katrina. If you're ever cynical about America, come down there and see these incredible people all over our country, school groups, church groups, volunteers. They're still coming in this day with building supplies, with their time, with their resources. It's an inspiring thing, and they're doing it for complete strangers because that's what Americans do for each other. We help each other. We get up off our feet. We're going to rebuild. Not only are we rebuilding my home state, we'll rebuild this economy. I've got no doubt about that. But the answer is not $1 billion for the census, $300 million to buy government cars. The answer is not $50 million for the National Endowment for the Arts. That's not what's going to get our economy growing again. What's going to get our economy growing again, these private businesses, these entrepreneurs, these risk takers, we need to be helping them, not government spending.
How dangerous is it when the president talks down the economy, as he has been, and uses fear to pass his political agenda?
Well, you mentioned some of the rhetoric. I mean, it almost reminds you of the 70s when our president back then told us we were in this malaise. And here's the problem. It can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. How many business people have you talked to, and I know you talk to leaders all over this country, how many people have you talked to saying fear is becoming a big impediment in the economy? Businesses with good cash flow aren't making investments they normally would. The part, not entirely, but part of the credit crisis is the fact that people aren't lending and investing money the way they would normally do. So, there is a very big part of that. A big part of the presidency is the bully pulpit. One of the great things that President Reagan did, I mean, obviously, it was his conservative principles, it was his tax cuts, it was his policies, but he also gave us the ability to believe in ourselves again. When he was elected, one of the first things he did was remind us we're a great country. We're that city on the hill, that shining city on the hill. And it absolutely matters what the president tells us day in and day out. I think it's one of the reasons you see the markets, in part, react the way they did. Now, they're also driven by policy. It doesn't help when we're creating trillion-dollar spending bills. It doesn't help when we're creating huge deficits for our children. It doesn't help when we're having to go ask China to buy our foreign debt, to buy our debt overseas. That doesn't help either. I mean, we obviously need to have better policies, but it doesn't help to have the President of the United States tell us how bad things will be instead of reminding us we are a resilient country. And I agree with you. I think that they got that message. They changed the tone last night. I think that was I'm glad they did. It was overdue, and I'm glad they did that.
Well, I'm not sure it's sincere. I think it's probably politically motivated, and I think they're wrapping conservative rhetoric around a pretty hard left socialist agenda. But, one of the things you pointed out is there is a fundamental disagreement, and that is about the proper role of government. And you point out, as conservatives, we oppose the democratic view that says the best way to strengthen the country is to increase dependence on government. I believe the best way to strengthen our country is to restrain spending in Washington, empower the individual, and empower small business. And you also rightly pointed out something that I have said a lot on this program, that the Republican Party got away from its conservative values, its Reagan values. In other words, they were elected to champion limited government, your words, fiscal discipline, and personal responsibility, yet they went along with the earmarks and big government spending, and they lost the people's trust.
Well, that's exactly right. The country didn't stop being conservative. The Republican Party stopped being conservative. The party started defending corruption and spending and earmarks we never would have accepted the other party. We accepted increases in discretionary spending. We accepted, expansions of entitlement programs without reforms, without the guarantee that we're going to do things better and smarter. And you're exactly right. I think that the voters got frustrated with that. If they wanted to, Republicans aren't going to win elections by just copying the other party. We have to offer principled, conservative, principle-based solutions to the problems that voters care about, that the American taxpayers are worried about. And I agree with you as well. I'm very worried. This trillion-dollar estimate on this stimulus package, that's assuming these so-called temporary programs are going to go away. Well, remember what President Reagan said. The closest thing you're going to see to eternity on this earth will be these government programs. Once they get created, they don't disappear. Listen to what the president said last night. There were some very attractive goals. We all want our kids to be educated. We all want health care to be affordable. We all want better and more affordable sources of energy. But there's a fundamental difference. We think patients should work with their physicians to control their health care, not government bureaucrats. Look at what they snuck in the stimulus bill when it comes to health care. We don't think the answer is just to increase federal government spending. There is just a fundamental, it's a genuine disagreement of opinion here. I think he made a bad mistake in allowing the Democratic leaders in Congress to write this first stimulus bill. If he wants to be bipartisan, I hope he doesn't repeat that mistake. It was basically, it read to me like a laundry list of a lot of items they've been trying to get done the last 10 years, not really prioritized, not really targeted, not really temporary, the way we heard the stimulus bill was going to be. And, going forward, if he wants to be bipartisan, he's going to have to reach out. It's not just inviting them to come to the White House. It's listening to conservative ideas.
Let me start. It was frustrating to me, and I said this at the start of my program today, and that is, that you've been attacked pretty heavily out there, and it's frustrating to me. I've often used the term that conservatives often eat their own and Republicans eat their own. They did it to Governor Palin when she was chosen as the vice presidential nominee. Just attacked by one conservative after another. You didn't have the benefit of the bully pulpit and 535 members in the Supreme Court and cabinet members in front of you clapping and standing and, that raucous atmosphere that presidents have at the State of the Union address. And you just gave a thoughtful, reasoned speech about what conservatism is about and what the future is and how you see it and mistakes that have been made and a promise for the future. And it bothered me that some people were critical. Let me start with MSNBC, the Obama network.